just gonna try and keep it as brief as possible. Just wanted to put our opinions on the patch right now, or the patch notes, and we'll see where it goes, you know? So, first change, because everything else is irrelevant, we're gonna go straight to hero balance and bug fixes. First thing is Aurora. No longer brief delays on no startup animation, basically, on the Q dash, which is nice. There's a lot of dashes in this game that have that. Crunch in particular, can't really remember any of the others, but yeah. Just getting this away is already a really big buff. Aurora's already a really strong hero, just because she does really well into melees with like all of her control. And just having all three of these abilities, attack speed increase, or a cast speed increase, actually makes a really big difference. I don't know. I think the biggest thing is probably the ult change. Getting 150 extra range. It's hard to know what units mean in this game, but 150 extra range just sounds really, really good. And also
Anytime it's just increasing the animation speed with increased range. Like you can pretty much confirm it a lot easier, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. So
and I mean, obviously, if you get rid of the delay on the charge, if you make it a lot cleaner, like it just makes her getting in and out so much more smooth and a lot more scary. Like you got higher range, comes out quicker if you can get on the back line.
Pretty much. This hero is already strong just from a metagame standpoint in terms of she does really well into melee heroes, just because of the how short range her control is, like the ultimate and everything. And also, if heroes are bunched up and her ultimate does more damage, you know, just this entire team-wide control in a team fight is so good at controlling melees. And since melees are the cornerstone of this meta, like everything's balanced around the melees, then she just got even stronger, even though she's already a really good hero. So it's kind of a really scary change. Would expect her to be a really good hero now. So moving on to Belica. Yep. I don't know. Change is kind of
long
irrelevant.
Story short, yep, does nothing. So
I mean, it doesn't really do anything. It's just the wrong change. Like, I'll take any Belica nerf, but it's just the wrong change. Like, you need to hit something. You don't need. She's not broken because her Q does too much damage. That's just the easiest way to say it.
If you want to bring her in line, it's not the way to bring her down. You need to like hit her utility a bit more, reduce the damage on the line, like make the drone less tanky or deal less, whatever the case. But hitting the Q by about 20 damage, the power scaling not really relevant because Belica is absolutely fine without power scaling anyways. Yes, enough doesn't really do much, right?
Yeah, like I said, I'll accept anything at this point. I just hate that hero. Drago bug fixes. I don't know. Kind of not relevant.
Yep.
I didn't even know that you could have this like ult thing happen where.
Nah, that sounds pretty funny though. I've never seen it, but I'm not an AD player, so I ain't got to deal with that.
Yeah, it sounds pretty fucking awful. Gideon buffs. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck this is about. This hero shouldn't be getting like any more like general bounty. I can understand like the burden buff. I can understand it somewhat, but I feel like these general balance buffs are just pointless. Like he's already such a strong hero that like why would you even, especially the 10 move speed? It just doesn't make any sense. Most mobile mage gets more movement speed. I don't know.
It's kind of what we said. You get more move speed, you get stronger chain. You can confirm the meteor easier because people are slower. You got the previous buffs in the last patch where he's already got really high power scaling. Now you're just increasing his durability in a meta where he can abuse growth totem and stuff like that. It just seems a little bit. I don't know why they're doing these buffs. Gideon is fine right now. He is not someone that needs them.
He's so strong. I don't know. I'm really scared about Gideon after this.
Yep. Already top 3, but he's just
pretty much. Grim. It's nice that this hero gets some love, honestly, just because he's in a pretty awful state. Like, there's just no situation to ever pick Grim. But these changes don't really do anything. Like, it's a nice, like, almost like quality of life change, and have the shield be 0 mana. I mean, I don't know why it wasn't 0 mana before. So, I don't know. If anything, like, I think these changes make him better in mid than any other role. Like, I just don't think base stat yeah, I don't think these base stat changes will affect him at AD carry at all. I still think he's just too weak as AD carry. He doesn't provide anything from the role that other heroes can provide. You want more damage, you play Murdoch Sparrow. You want utility, you play Drongo. Like, it's just,
when it comes to mana cost changes and stuff like that, like it doesn't really affect his lane phase if he's playing AD. Like, sure, it helps, but not really that relevant. In mid lane, when you're trading a bit more actively, it's more orientated towards that. But then he's still really squishy. Still has a massive hitbox. Still doesn't work in late game. doesn't really work, and he can't abuse things like Plague Lord. So he doesn't work in the current meta. So the change is pretty irrelevant.
Yeah.
Nice and all, but don't
I
really
mean,
do anything.
if they really want to make him viable, they just need to change his Z. Like, he needs to be not a dead ability, and then maybe he could have a niche. I don't know.
Yep.
That's really it. Grux, minor improvements to basic attack animation. I don't really know what they mean by this. I'm actually curious what they mean by this. I really want to know. And
Could be just a bit cleaner.
maybe.
Moves, yeah.
Smash and grab. Just a bug fix for the first one, where it happens so many times on stream, where specifically in between the T1 and T2 mid towers, near the fog walls, it's happened to me about 3 or 4 times where I just can't grab people there. Or just consistently can't grab people. It's really silly. And this double damage bug is actually really interesting because you can replicate it, but you also can't at the same time just because the
How do you even do it?
situations.
I've seen times where
It's
you literally
either
chunked people.
it's either if they're right up next to you, like you hit it literally point blank range, or if you hit it max range. I forget which one it is. I think it's point blank. I think you have to hit it point blank range, and you can deal double damage, and you can replicate.
I'm assuming it just overlapped it
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah,
the damage
it's.
just
I
did
think it's
twice.
how it works is like, you know how it goes out in a cone, like it almost it goes out like that. I think if you get hit by both sides, or if your model's in both sides, then you get hit twice. Is how it works. I think that's how it works. I don't remember. I know you could replicate it though. But yeah, it's cool that it's out. I'm just more happy that I can finally grab people. Fucking, like, I don't know. It's whatever. It doesn't really change Grux that much.
Iggy.
Yeah. Honestly, I wish that they nerfed... No, actually, it's irrelevant if they nerf the flame turret level 1, now that I think about it. I just want to see... the perfect solution to me is a token system. Like, maybe it starts out as 2, then it goes to 3, 4, and 5 at max rank. 5 hits, and take out the turrets. I think that's healthy. But, if they want to do this, I would rather see it 600 health instead of 640 health. That's like my only gripe about this Iggy change, but hate that hero. I'll take any Iggy nerf I can get.
Yeah, I mean, the turrets are already really durable. His damage is already cranked out really high. Like, you see it in the next nerf. Drops it down a bit, makes it a lot more easy to manage. EXO fucks it even harder. But just killing the turrets and his ability just to spam out 4, because the cooldown is so low and his mana pool stays pretty damn healthy, that at least in mid lane, it's very hard to attack his mana pool. Off lane, it's not too bad. You've got people hitting the turrets. He doesn't have as much space. But in mid lane, it's too easy for him to just walk up 3 towers on the edge of your tower. You can't ever out damage him. It becomes too high too quick. So, happy to see it.
Yeah,
Needs a bit more, but whatever.
I think the Burning Sense nerf might actually just push out his lane. Maybe he's just... I don't know. It might be enough. I think he needs a little bit more, but I think this might actually be enough to start push out this hero, which is like I'm happy about. And this health per level change was actually basically a revert of like the previous patch that they did, because they gave him more health per level. Now they reduced it again, so I don't know what they're doing here. I think they realized that they fucked up. Like,
yeah, just made him unnecessarily tanky.
Yeah,
Look, you can get him tanky if you want to itemize for it, but he shouldn't be that durable as somebody who has so much zone control. Pretty much, like when I look at this, I just see it as more orb control than anything. His lane is going to be a lot weaker, and it's going to be Iggy. I hope it becomes just obscure and a niche pick. Don't like it. I don't think you like it either, right?
No, it's awful. Walking into Iggy turrets is awful.
Yeah.
Then there's Kwang. I mean, these 2 changes, Judgment's right click and Fury is ultimate. Both these changes are I just don't understand why they took place, because like the hero's already strong. The hero already provides so much, and it's a very easy hero to play. Like, it's just, you don't need to make it easier. I don't know. I know his items get nerfed a little bit here, but I feel like these ranges, specifically the ultimate, is like the only one I really have a real problem with. Just because it is like the really, really hard slow. Just having 200 extra range, being able to just consistently just jump ult somebody, and then they can't dodge it whatsoever, even if they juke you, is just, it just seems a bit silly. I really don't know why this change happened.
Yeah, anything that makes it more confirmed without having to hit the sword, not a fan.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, I just don't know why this happened.
Like, it may not be stat increases, but it's still a noticeable buff. Like, it can effectively change his damage or his ability to do damage. Like you said, Withering gets nerfed later on, but even if the items that he abuses get nerfed, giving him these range increases is pretty big.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know why these changes happened. Like, he's already a strong hero. Like, he's already, like, everybody's talked about Kwang for so long now. I feel like he's been like the one character that has just stayed consistently strong for the past like 3 or 4 months that we've been playing. He's the
Yep.
one character I can think of.
He's
You know,
always been a
Greystone fell
staple.
out, and then Kwang is like still here. You know, like think of all
Yeah,
the mid
even
laners
now,
that got changed. Like,
yeah, like even now he's still viable. He may not be like first pick jungle or first pick off lane, just with how Feng Mao is. But point being is you've just given him tweaks here and there, a little bit more buffs, and he's already really stable and
yeah, I don't
really
know.
good all round. So
It's just so
we'll
silly
see.
that they were given these buffs. I don't know. Um, then there's the Narbash nerfs. I kind of wish that there were Muriel nerfs to like supplement this because I feel like Muriel has. I don't even know if she. It's strange because I don't know exactly if she needs a nerf just because it's hard to really get a read on that hero. I feel like just
Yeah.
because of players.
I mean, see, my opinion was Narbash is a bit stronger. Like, I prefer him in general over Muriel, but it does hit that point where Muriel does scale into the late game so well, really does supplement the team fight and that sort of thing. The nerfs don't hurt Narbash. He's still Narbash, but it's not enough to make something like FaZe or Deca come back into it because that's not why
I
they're
think the
weak.
biggest thing is the healing nerf. I think the healing nerf is actually pretty big, like 10 health per second in a team fight. When you
Yeah,
consider that you're healing 5 people, or that you can heal 5 people because of how big his heal is, it's quite a lot of healing that you're losing. You're basically effectively losing up to a potential 50 health per second from the nerf. It's a really big nerf.
yeah,
It's
it's
just
pretty
raw
crazy.
healing output. The damage nerf, his ult's pretty high damage, but I don't know. I didn't even know it had a 5 scaling, honestly. Like, that's pretty insane scaling.
Yeah, it's pretty high. His base damage is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean,
I
I'm
don't
cool
know.
with this. I just wish there
Yeah,
were
no,
Muriel
I'm
nerfs.
cool with
I
it.
just wish there were Muriel nerfs as well. But
I
that's it.
just I don't want to see a world where Muriel is just first pick every time and there's no variety. And
Yeah.
like I'm all well and good for certain heroes to be strong within their certain respects, but it should never be a case of one hero just stands above all the others, like FaZe in the last patch and so on. Like it shouldn't be that dominant. So hopefully, I don't think this will make her that dominant. I think the nerfs are fine, but they need to fix the other supports before they start bringing down these ones.
Yeah. Sevarog. Basically, the general balance, like the base health and health regen, are nice. This makes his clearing a little bit better because he actually does have still one of the worst clears because it's still the same story where you have to let these minions hit you. You can't just chop down one minion then chop down another. You have to let these minions hit you and you have to stack them. So you just come out of the jungle a little bit less health than normal. So it's always nice to start to get like the 20. Is it? It's 24 extra health level 1 and base health regen increased. Cool. It's all well and good. The big change is like the soul stack breakpoints. The thing about this is that I almost feel like this isn't a buff, it's more just to neutralize what's going to happen to the jungle, simply because the jungle density is lower. There's 3 camps at max instead of 5, which means you're just going to get less stacks, so it's unrealistic to get 140 stacks, especially with the game length being what it is. I feel like this is just a preemptive, like, make sure Sevarog doesn't get any worse than he is, rather than an actual buff,
Yeah, just giving him changes relative to the new changes coming in.
pretty much. I mean,
But it does make offlane Sevarog stronger, just because he has a much easier ability getting stacks and kill the minions. They're not changing the amount. You can argue that later on the minion count's going to drop, but that's not too relevant.
yeah, it's not too
But
relevant.
so yeah, offlane Sevarog, a little bit better. Jungle Sevarog is more just kind of bringing it all together and keeping it in touch with the patch, right?
Yeah. Shimby polish and bug fixes, just kind of relevant. Just hit that. Let's go to steel now. This is probably the biggest change of the patch in terms of like hero change. Probably the biggest hero change is actually getting a new ability. Getting rid of the bull rush. I mean, bull rush is kind of a dead ability. I know some people think that bull rush was cool, but it's dead ability. It was literally dead without ultimate, and even with ultimate, it just didn't do anything. It's just you had nothing else to do, so you'd bull rush. Like that was all that the ability did. The ability was just extra damage on the ult, and that was it. So having the shield bash ability, which I wonder about the range, but just looking at this ability, it looks a lot better. It looks like it has a lot more pressure. It means that steel isn't just an ult bot. I like this change. I like this change a lot. Just having this ability to like just make you just, even though it's only 0.5 seconds, just to have the disruption in the fight. It's like a Grux ult. Like you smack them and then boom, it's like you're just stopping whatever you're doing for a quarter of a second. Like it's very
It just
valuable just
makes
for disruption.
his ability to function in the lane or in the 1v1 and just trade is so much better now because he actually has a repetitive damage ability that he can use for whatever reason. It's not just kind of waiting and getting this weird janky charge and can I hit it? Like you have a way of poking people out now. You have a way of scrapping. You've got a good ability to max if you want it. You don't need to just max the ability power resist, right? Like you don't need to deal with that anymore. So
Definitely.
it's a lot better.
And then the shield slams change is actually interesting. I remember what you said, and I didn't even think about it, was just the fact that it's actually
You're
kind of a
cutting out.
buff. The shield slam change is like actually really interesting, just because I remember what you said, that you think that this ability actually got like a very small buff almost.
It's a strange buff in a way, yeah.
No, just
Because
because.
end of the day, total range is the same, right? But then it changes. You got a bigger whip when you're actually going to slam. So walking out of it or avoiding the collision radius a lot harder, and the overall range is actually the same. You spend less time in the air, so less travel time. Like it does help him weirdly, and maybe not much, but it's just a little change helps him.
And Bulwark going down by 4 seconds flat, like this ability is doesn't really have that much application. Like it does, but it doesn't. But just having a 4 second, having more uptime on it is just better. Like cool. You know what I mean? I think Steel is actually a very interesting hero, and I wonder what's gonna happen to him. I wonder where he's gonna be played. You could see him almost anywhere, I think.
I could almost see it in mid lane. Like I don't want to say it. I wish it's not true, but I can almost see it happening. Even support still might be relevant to some degree. I mean, you have an on-demand stun. It depends how big the range is, right? It doesn't say. I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But a AOE cone, I'm assuming what it is. Decent range, 6-second cooldown, stun every time. Pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah. You also have to think about gems like Avenging Spells, where it's like you're getting hit, reducing your cooldowns. Like,
yeah.
So realistically, I think you could have this up on a 4 second CD consistently in a team fight. So you could probably pump out, like, I think the most you can get is about 3, but just being able to have 3 of these is like really scary if like the steel just lives really long in the fight.
And it's what you said about Steel the other day, actually. You know, when you mentioned how, he's one of the few hard initiate characters in this game. If you actually increase his relevance, his ability to scrap, his ability to function on the map, and succeed in the lane,
he's just like
or
the
clear,
only
you
hero in
name it.
this game that has the go button, like the Malphite go button, or like Tide Hunter, like whatever.
So if this actually turns out to be, a relatively good change for him and it works well, and that I can see him being very relevant.
Pretty much. So I'm actually really interested about Steel. It's like Steel and Aurora are like the two ones I really want to see, like what happens. Phase, all buffs, but the energy lance getting a base damage increase is good, but the damage isn't the thing. It's not about phase's damage, honestly. The damage is irrelevant. The damage could be the same, and it wouldn't necessarily make a difference, in my opinion. Like, the power scaling goes up. Like these are all nice, but I don't think it addresses the core problem that phase has, which is just that her mana costs are too high. Her root is only a 0.5 second root, and so the follow up like isn't as consistent as it was before. Don't get me wrong, old phase root was like really really broken, where I think it was like a 1.5 or just a 1 second root, but it was enough in her to get follow up, and then you would do something with the 0.5 second root, and with it being so low damage, and with it being so high mana cost. Like it's not a good ability right now. So I feel like just giving it more damage doesn't tackle the problem. So I don't know. This is good, but I don't think it's what it needs.
I mean, it helps her early phase in the lane and that, but realistically, it's you look at all the other buffs. You've got the cooldown on the blind. You've got the link healing for a bit more. You've got a bit more base stats in terms of durability. Yeah, bit high mana per level, bit high mana regen, but her mana cost is so high. You get like 1 or 2 rotations out. You need to help her out there somewhere. And likewise, a lot of the cards that she can't cover that through the deck, right? Like she doesn't have a bunch of mana cards she can
There's
build
only
into.
a few cards that supports can buy that can get mana. One of them is Supply Surgeon, which is like the 3-cost mana shout card. Like that's like the only card that I can think of that supports can actually buy that as mana. It's actually like a cheap card.
So
the biggest.
As far as I like FaZe, man, but I think she's still like, is she viable weirdly as a 4th or a 5th pick? Maybe if you have to, but as far as she's concerned, still got the same problems. Doesn't help. Like, would like to see change a little bit, a couple more buffs, but it's the mana's the problem.
Yeah, mana is the biggest problem. I do think actually the link buff is actually really big. Like 10 health per second for 4 seconds. 10 extra ones is really good. Like, it's a really good buff for her. Bug fix. I don't really care. Revenant. This is actually like one of the more interesting changes because I don't think it necessarily impacts the meta, but just being able to. I think you referenced Draven. Whenever like I didn't think about it like that, but it really is like that where the payout is so high. Like even though you get like the extra 1,000 gold bounty at level 13, it's still just like very relevant just because of carry items like the Hellfire engine and and just getting more stats. For instance, hitting that 13 vitality, even if you're 25 agility, just for the ability armor breakpoint. Like, you could hit these breakpoints a lot faster and consistently on this hero because you get this 2,000 gold payout.
It's a lot. I mean, if you consider how on previous patches they, they did buff him, right? They buffed it was one of the few ones they did, but they buffed the amount of gold you get on the bounty and increasing it more, especially when gold is more valuable on this patch than it was in V41 in terms of just numbers. Like 1,000 is a lot more relative to whatever.
Yeah, very
In
valuable.
that situation, being able to just pump in more gold to him, it is kind of like this isn't going to be enough to make him staple AD, I don't think, but you give him the ability to be a time bomb, and every time he's got his ult, you can't feed him free gold because he will just scale exponentially. Because it's that on top of the gold kill you get from killing somebody, and that's been increased in this patch as well by a flat amount. Like, he can probably get out of control pretty quick.
I can
It's
see
just
it.
the meta being the way it is.
Yeah, and the attack speed per level going up. I don't know how much I don't know how much 1.5 is, but that's a pretty big increase, honestly,
In
percentage
terms of
wise
flat
at least.
numbers, it's a lot. Yeah, it's just his
Yeah.
reload speed, which is it does go down pretty decently, but
Yeah.
it just helps him really.
Honestly, though, it's like I don't think this. Just to clarify, like I don't think this will make him viable whatsoever. I think he like suffers from a metagame issue of that he fills a certain
Keep
role.
cutting out, by the way.
I think he suffers. Like I think this doesn't make him viable necessarily in terms of like a top end perspective, like top 1%. I don't think this really makes him viable. You can play him in solo queue, but in terms of like it actually being a really strong pick, I don't think this is enough to make him good. Just because he can't kill tanks and melees are just what makes the meta right now. So if you can't kill tanks, then there's no point to play
Yeah.
him. But he is a really cool hero, and I guarantee you that this is a hero that you have to always keep your eye on, like in later patches. Like he could just become the best, like very fast. Like
He will
something
change.
happens and indirectly changed, and then more squishy targets happen. This guy has more targets, then he's more viable, and I think this character will come back. Like it just needs time. Just needs a meta change. The Fae. Ramble patch no longer restricts move speed during cast. This is a weird one because I can see how the Aurora thing's gonna go, and I can see how like some of these, if you took off the delay on some of these animations, like how it would work and how it's really good. I don't know how good it is with Fae. Like how good do you think it is with Fae to have this Bramble patch buff?
It's pretty good. It's mainly it's what I've always complained about with Faye is that if you ever use it aggressively, you're stuck in the animation. It takes a long time to get out of it. Or there's nothing you can't use it as an aggressive slow unless you're already on top of them. At which point you probably ult them when you've killed them anyways. But when you're running as well, you can now just cut off a choke point and you can run over it and you can abuse it, and you're not giving up this time by throwing it down because you're being chased, trying to slow people, but then oh shit, I'm stuck in an animation, I can't do anything. Like it just makes it a lot better, and then you increase the width as well, which takes them longer to get out of it. It's more impressive. Like it's pretty good all around. And then when you add on the ult range increase, just makes it easier, makes it less blink reliant. It's only a little bit, but it helps. And then you got the whip from the bramble patch, keeps them stuck in it longer. Like all around, pretty good changes. Like she's already viable right now with the growth build you can do and so on. But yeah, it makes her pretty good. Like she'll definitely be played a lot more often.
That's good. After that, it's the Twinblast changes, which I was a bit surprised about this because I think it's him and Revenant are the only carries that got changed this patch.
And they
And
nerfed Twinblast.
yeah, I don't really know why they nerfed Twinblast. That's the thing. Because I understand the Rocket Dash nerf a little bit. I didn't think it was a problem though, necessarily. I feel like that was his thing. You know what I mean? Like there's just
Yeah, he's the mobile AD who can repeatedly reposition on some level. Like
yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Rocket Dash nerf was just it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why it got nerfed.
yeah, and you
And
compare him to Drongo and Murdoch, like Drongo is
yeah.
arguably stronger. Murdoch is the same or stronger. Twin Blast was in a pretty okay place on this patch. He didn't need to just have his damage attacked and
Yeah.
reduce his mobility. I don't really know what the reasoning was behind it.
The thing is that there's such small nerfs that's why I don't really understand. Like if it was something like I don't know, it's just these almost don't do anything. Like the Rocket Dash does, the Rocket Dash nerf does, but the Rapid Fire change it doesn't do anything. It actually doesn't really do anything. You're probably losing about like 20 damage. I'm not sure exactly how it works, like how it works in conjunction with crit and like some of these other things, but you're
Yeah, when you
probably
add
not
crit
losing
on
that
top
much
of it,
damage.
bit more exponential, yeah, sure.
Right.
But realistically, they're just small changes to his damage, like a little bit, maybe like 50 at most or something, and over the duration of a fight, amount to anything. So what is with these numbers being changed?
And the thing is like if there is something else, like if an item got changed and they're worried about something in conjunction with this item, why aren't other ADs getting adjusted as well? That's what I don't
Yep.
understand. It's like it's just a very strange change, honestly. I really don't understand the Twinblast change at all.
We'll see.
So Wraith's like
Yeah.
probably the worst mage in the game right now.
My favorite hero in the game.
What would you say is actually the worst mage in the game right now? Like out of all the mages.
Close to it. He's got like the same problems with Howard. So where like on paper and the way you play him, he seems okay, but then realistically, he doesn't scale into end game. His lane is really wonky. Like right now, the problem he has is that he does have mana issues in the lane. Other than not scaling into late game well at all because of all the tanks and he can't poke people out. But with it is, 20 mana off the right click, it helps you spam. It's pretty good. It keeps your mana pool healthy, and then you get the base mana buffs as well, and the mana regen buffs. It does keep him healthier in lane. If that means that you're in like a level 6 trade and you can get that one extra right click on the person without ooming yourself, or you've got the mana there to knock him back, or just poke him out of the lane, like it does help. I expect to see him a bit more, but it doesn't solve the problems he has in the game. It just helps the lane for the most part. And past that, he's got problems in the late game anyways. It's either you get really fed and you get out of control and you can carry the map, or play neutral and before you know it, you get outscaled and you can't do anything. So doesn't fix him, but we'll see. Like maybe he'll play a little bit more if his lane phase is a lot better. Can't see it being that much better, but like it'll be a little bit better depending on how much. Maybe there's certain matchups he'll be really good in, but I can't really see it.
Yep. I mean, it's just he doesn't abuse the system like he used the old card system. Is kind of just the entire thing.
Exactly, and he doesn't function well as a Plague Lord bot, pretty much standing there. He's not in the meta build right now, so
definitely not. So Yin got changed. This is actually the other 80 carry, so I was wrong. There was one more that got changed, but
doesn't really do anything. Yeah.
So, I mean, these are all okay. I mean, I think the move speed change is actually really impactful. Like I think it's a lot of move speed. Like that's a lot of move speed. 705. That's pretty high. So that's the only thing that I'm looking at. Like, ooh, okay. But everything else, like, it's like you said about Lash Kick. Like the animation is so long that you don't need to increase the range. You just need to make the animation faster.
Yeah, make it cleaner, make it more of a juke, and it does help gap closing and chasing people. And if she loses her range and she's in a lower range form, like of course it can get you on top of them a little bit easier. But realistically, is he in? The kit's just kind of doesn't really interact too well. She doesn't abuse the cars. She's not really going to change.
Yeah, it's just she had problems laning in v41, and with offlaners becoming stronger in v42 and v43, like it just makes her even worse. So I feel like she just suffers from that. She just needs like a really big change in her to make her viable. Like I don't think these will. I don't think adjusting her base stats is gonna make her viable.
No.
Zinx, this character's dead.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, we will not miss you because this shit is fucking dead. Because you could look at this like at a glance and go like, oh, it's just like it's an early game like kind of buff, but it's like it's worse at late, and it's like it's not really though because the way XP works now, it's not really because you're gonna hit level 9 so fast like that you can't even use like this almost theoretical level 5 spike somewhat. You can't really use this level 5 like buff in a sense, and she's not even like an early game hero, so you just can't use this at all. And like her items already got nerfed as well. I just think this whole thing's like you didn't need to do it. I feel like she was already pushed out just because her items got nerfed.
Yeah, as soon as they nerfed Withering and some of the other things she picks up and the way they work, that already hit her. And then you change the bonus mana regen you make it a lot lower. And like she needs to scale and pick up things like the Withering anyways. That's like the only viable build on her. And that takes a good 13 to 15 minutes, and you usually hit level 9 by then. So by the time you come online, you've already got a nerf there. You've got a nerf on the amount of mana it costs when you get your health back. You've hit all the other base stats. Like, I just don't see her being played. She was already felt a bit janky at times, but with Withering nerfs, with these numbers and that, I don't really see her being played. I don't know why they did it. It's a bit unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit unnecessary. Everything else is just I don't really care about these general face model updates and stuff or abilities.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
All right, so we're gonna try. There's a lot that goes into the game mode and economy. Try and keep it as concise as we can because we could literally be sitting here for a while about it. So
and likewise, we don't really know how it interacts.
Yeah, so let's just talk about the gold drip to start there. It's Is it actually an increase or is it 1-to-1 basically? Because I think it's
Your
actually an
mic.
increase. Oh yeah.
Your mic is actually all over the place. Like, I think the cable's a bit fucked. But basically, as far as Amber's concerned, I haven't got the math. I think if you perfectly farm, it's when it levels out with being less than Amber. I think it's a little bit more than the Amber charges you're getting because, yeah, Amber's gone, and you think, oh, you get more gold, but then you was getting that gold from Amber. It's about the same, maybe a little bit more passive gold, but that's about it.
Is it any better now?
A little bit. I think the cable's a bit fucked, maybe.
1 sec.
But yeah, but obviously you've got the different sizes of camps in that. It makes farming the jungle a little bit less relevant because the jungler still gets the gold, but your team doesn't need the passive amber gold anymore. So if you see that 5 stack, you don't feel as compelled to clear it for the sake of the team. You're more clearing it because you want the farm. That's it.
All right, is it so bad?
It's a bit better.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just the removal of Amber just makes jungle a lot different. Like, the jungle dynamic is a lot different. Overall, I like this change personally. Like, some people might not, but I like it. After that
You hear a lot of
is...
complaints about, reduces counter jungling windows and the amber plays in that, but amber was already a weird mechanic. It already gave way too much gold anyways. Abusing the amber timer was always a bit strange with 2-minute windows, and I don't really care to see it gone as long as the interaction is made up for through other values and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely agree. Besides that, did you already talk about the 1 second interval?
Oh no, I mean that's just you get more gold. You don't have to wait 5 seconds to get a
it's just
tick.
nice.
So
It's just
it's
nicer.
quality of life. I prefer it. It helps you look at it. It means you don't have to sit in base for like 20 seconds, just like waiting for it to tick over, man.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
And
Yeah, I mean, I have the other gold changes with like the base gold on heroes being changed. Early kills worth more, but you get a lower percentage of their gold when you kill them later in the game. So later kills are worth about the same, but early game kills a lot more gold, and that's good. I like it because right now you get first blood. It doesn't really do anything for you. You just think, oh, okay, I killed someone. Like increasing the amount you get for kills is gonna help in
a lot of
terms of
times the
making it feel more
experience from the
rewarding.
kill is more valuable than anything else. So I
Yeah,
mean, just
definitely.
getting the gold increase is really nice, even
I
if it
mean,
is only like 95.
my philosophy is just straight up in that if you kill somebody, it means you've done something right or they fucked up, in which case you should be rewarded. So having high rewards for gold or XP or whatever, it's worthwhile. The only danger is obviously is making it too much, and it makes roaming for kills a bit too prevalent, which with the way the map is right now, with lack of vision, how small the map is, bit spooky, but I don't think it'll be too bad. It's okay.
No, I think the same. I think you should be rewarded, especially in the early game, for creating opportunities and creating kills. Let's see. Is there anything
Yeah,
else?
that's about it. It's just big jungle change.
I'll talk very briefly about this, as brief as I can be. Basically, the jungle change is almost like a net neutral at first glance. Like, this is all my first impression because I haven't even seen it from the dev stream. Couldn't find the VODs or anything. So the biggest change is probably the 90-second respawn timer instead of the 1 minute. This is going to change timings. This is going to change how people get places, the timings that people get there. The normal timings are going to be completely different, and the early clears are going to be changed just by the new large white minion dynamic. But the XP is essentially, if you look at the values, the small white minions are basically 1, and then the large ones are basically 3. So essentially, it adds up technically to like the same values as it would be a 5 camp, but it's just that you have 3 instead of 5. This helps because there are heroes like Chimera who just actually cannot clear the 5 stack camps because it's too dense. Like, there's too much stuff there. You just can't do it because your kit doesn't allow it. So it would naturally push out heroes like Chimera simply because you don't have like the Fang Hamstring or the double pain from Grux. You can't just hit all 5 of these creeps at once. So it would just push them out. So I like this change simply because I think it allows more heroes to play jungle, and I feel like it increases the jungle variety. That's really it.
As far as which one spawns first and everything, though, like it's neither one of us have seen it in a video, so we could be completely wrong. But depending on if the big one keeps spawning constantly and it's going to just refresh and keep spawning the big one, if it's on a cycle where the small ones spawn no matter what, and it's like small, small, big, small, small, like it changes the clears completely, right? It changes everything, and
Yeah,
until
like
we see it, we can't really don't really know how it's going to affect clears or gold or XP or how much AoE is needed.
All that we know is that the
Everything.
timings are going to be completely different, and that's just the big thing. Is that the timings it will be completely different. You won't
Yeah.
just be like at 3 minutes. Like where can the jungler be? Like it changes entirely. Like what can happen. So I don't
I
know.
mean, the thing is, with most of the changes, Epic seems like they've done the numbers where they've tried to keep most things the same. You saw like the Sev stack changes. It's all about trying to keep him hitting the same relative curve. I imagine it's the same in jungle where the XP is probably just around the same, give or
Probably.
take. Same with the gold will probably be around the same, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the amber being removed, though, it just changes the way. Like the jungler doesn't have to just AFK farm to make sure the amber gold stays up, and
Pretty
it
much.
means they can be a bit more loose in terms of the camps they want to go for, right? And do they want to go for a gank, so on and so forth. Like a bit more decision making. I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like there's just you can be like a little bit more unpredictable, and you can't just be tracked hard because I feel like that
Yep.
was the problem with the jungle before is that you could if I think if you gave us like let's say we stayed on this patch for like a year, like God forbid, but let's say we stayed on like the patch v42 for a year, I think jungling would almost become a science in a sense of where it's like he must go here, he must do this now, he must do this now. Otherwise, it is like massively inefficient. Not necessarily, it's not wrong to necessarily do an inefficient play, but massively inefficient, and he must be here. And you
Yeah,
could
you
almost
really
narrow
had
it down
to
to a science.
optimize your clears. But how do you feel now that Amber's gone in terms of invading and stuff like that? Because I know people, they've complained reduces the
No,
amount of options you have and
no.
being able to invade and get a timing. Like
If anything,
now
I
it's
feel like invading is even more worth it, especially if they have a large minion. You just etch in the large one, you dip, like you've stolen something that has like a lot of value.
I mean,
Especially,
it attacks the jungler's economy directly a lot more, but like in terms of Amber, because before you see an enemy 5 camp, you take it, you're like, not only have I taken 5 of their minions, but I've also now taken away all of that Amber gold from the team.
yeah. I mean, I can get it where it's like the gold differential between the two teams, like it becomes that bigger. So the impact of the play is like bigger. I see that, but I don't necessarily think it should have been like that in the first place. So I just don't really. I don't know.
It does oddly link like the team's economies, almost Heroes of the Storm-esque, where you're sharing this resource and you have to keep it down, and you are
Yeah.
kind of being penalized by your jungler not being as efficient. And as a team play mechanic, it's interesting. But I mean, if the game can become more 1-to-1 in terms of I take this jungler's camp, he's now lost his gold. Yes, he's getting passive gold gain, but his team isn't just getting this random benefit for whatever he's doing. Like
Yeah.
it kind of affects the other lanes a bit more because they get their gold no matter what. They can be consistent with it,
Yep.
and the jungler you can just fight them on an economy level a bit more. But I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. It's hard to read into it with the minion changes and shit. Personally, never really liked Amber.
Yeah. I didn't really like it
Ranging
either.
the gameplay patterns too, like you walk in, you try to abuse an Amber timing where you kind of know they're clearing, so you try and get there before it ticks over. But it was very rarely, like even in comp play, it's very rarely an objective that's hard fought
It's
over.
we've
It's
talked
more of
about
a I'm
this.
here.
We've talked about this like a million times. Like if it's almost like people could talk about these perfect situations, not just in like team fights almost, where it's like, oh, I get this, and the wombo combo happens, and it's beautiful, it's spectacular. But it's like if you've done all these steps, you've already won. It's like the same thing with Ember. If you're already in the jungle hitting the
Yeah.
Ember, chances are that you're in a position in the game where the game's already over. So it's almost
Yep.
like icing on the cake. It's not actually the actual course. Like
I
it's
mean, maybe I
that's all
didn't
it is.
value Amber as much, but most of the time, whenever I'm like, oh, I can clear it, it's an afterthought of like, oh, I'm here. I'm not under any pressure. I can invade in their jungle for free. We've got priority. We've got positioning.
Hmm.
Let's just kill Amber. Like, it's a good thing to take away because it's a lot of gold, but it was never a big map objective. Like, not on the same level that Orb is, or even, yeah, Raptors are a bit different now, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, no, it's just like I said, it was always the thing whenever we talked about Amber. It's just like, oh, we really want to like make an effort or get to Amber, but it's like, how can you actually get there? You know what I mean? It's just unrealistic almost. It
Yep.
was at least. So I don't know. You couldn't make it a consistent part of your game. It was just kind of like, oh, we're here, might as well, go in, boom.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong. It comes down to how, like, the new camp placement and the values and that play out. I don't want the game to become less passive where there's less things to fight over and it's less everyone just sit in our lanes and there's nothing to do. I get that it could happen, and maybe they need to change a few other things as well to make up for the loss of what the Amber gave. But as it stands, even if that is the case, I think they'll fix it. They'll find something that feels better and
Yeah.
plays better.
No, basically, I didn't like Amber either. Let's stop it there. Like Amber's
Yeah.
just, Rest in peace. I won't miss you. That's it.
Amen.
Gold buff getting changed, rounded up to a decent number. Cool. 21 extra gold value.
Every little helps.
Black buff replaced the orange buff for better visibility. Cool. I mean, we talked about this, or you talked about it in particular, was that on the minimap it was basically impossible to see if when it was coming up. You'd have to almost like look at the other buff in order to see like if it was up. And God forbid
I
you had
know
two
I've got bad
flags.
vision. Yeah, I know I've got bad vision, man. But you know, the black was just really, it was an awkward color. So nice little change. Glad they did it.
Yep. And then this is a pretty big change. Like these last two are pretty decently good. Orb losing the root ability. I'm really, really glad about this. I actually remember that this is like quite recent. I told you we were talking about Orb, and I was talking like, you know, the root is so impactful. The root is so powerful. It's like something that you cannot stop it, and it will always hit priority targets in the back because melees will always be auto attacking the orb on top of the orb, so they will never get it. It always goes to the farthest away from the OP. So when you think about it, it will always root the carry, and it's such an obvious timing in order to engage on the enemy team. And I feel like it was. I really didn't like it because it was almost like in most games, like you almost had a defender's disadvantage, or I would almost call it.
It's so heavy
It's
because
so
it's confirmed and the AoE is so big as well. It's zone control. Yeah, it hits the furthest person back, but then like if you all just hug the orb, then you know you're really deep in the pit and you can get collapsed on really easy. I don't know, man. Like the root was just so huge, and like you said, you can consistently just abuse the timing. And it's not even having a sixth man; it's like a seventh man picks one of their priority targets. We go in, blow them up.
pretty
It just
much.
makes it a lot less coin flippy and actually rewards you more for trying to kill the orb.
Yeah, you shouldn't be penalized for trying to make the proactive play.
Yeah,
That's what
I
that
don't
like.
know the terrain as well. I don't know how that's changed, but you know, with the combination of terrain plus now the root being gone, like I'm hoping Orb is a bit more rewarding to actually try and do it. And like with Flame being nerfed a little bit later, it kind of makes it
Mhm.
even less riskier, which is always good because with Flame being nerfed, it becomes more risky. But you know,
Yeah.
anything to help.
This is a really interesting one about when they added the new scattered projectiles ability. This is basically just trying to stop people from trying to solo orb. So it's good. I mean, I like it. I like it quite a bit. It just means the more people you have, like the less damage that you take and all of this. Cool.
Splits it up. Yeah,
I wish I knew how much damage and like how it
yeah,
scaled and all this, but I'm cool with just the idea of like it stops this solo orb bullshit. It just stops all of this. It's cool. I actually think this is a lot better. Like this is probably like one of the happiest things or one of the things I'm the most happy about.
yeah. I think it's a healthy change,
It's a
like
very good
in
change.
every respect. Like it's just good,
Hmm.
pretty
And
big, pretty impactful, and
yep,
just helps a lot. So.
yep. And then there's lane minions, the spawn schedule. Um, I mean, it just makes game length go a little bit longer. That's really all I think about it
Yep.
because you won't have like these humongous waves like crashing in super early. That's really about it. Good change. You know what I mean? So let's move on to the cards and gems. Big thing was auras. You know, no longer require line of sight, which is an interesting one. I think it's pretty interesting. But then no longer stacking auras is another one. The line of sight one, I'm a little bit. I don't know. I'll have to see. On first glance, I don't like it, but I understand it, but I don't like it. I think beneficial auras shouldn't have line of sight, and offensive auras should require line of sight. There you go.
I just think it's one of those changes where rather than making everything just unilateral across the board, it's all the same. Like all auras work in the same way, which they've changed a little bit, but it shouldn't be everything has line of sight or no line of sight. Just make it individual.
Pretty
If you
much.
have like an armor aura, then let it go through walls. If you have like a damaging aura like we're wearing, just don't let it go through walls. It's that simple.
Yep. Um, Awaken the Emmerich. Fixed an issue. Fixed an issue. Okay. I don't really mind. This card's dead.
Cards. Yeah, it's dead anyways.
Devastation. That's the tower kill card. I mean, you don't lose it on death anymore, but it's still just like, why would you ever take this
No,
card?
you level. It was a curse card, right?
No, I swear that you lost all the power that you got from it on death.
She gonna level really quickly.
Or maybe it's just a bug. I swear I saw this in the
No, it was just cursed. That's all it is.
Okay. Either way though,
Point
there's
is,
just
lower base
they,
takes longer to ramp. Better in the late game, but it's a curse card. You're buying it for the early anyway, so
it's just a curse card that has 4 power on it and then has to scale. Like it just doesn't really make. It almost goes against the whole idea of a curse card. It doesn't make.
yeah.
I don't know.
I haven't seen it much,
I've seen it a
but
couple times and it's never done well. Like it's just I don't
yeah,
think you
pretty
could ever
much.
find application for this card unless you base a whole team strategy around it. And if the strategy ever crumbles, then it's like it's over. Like I don't know.
Yep.
Fighter playthings going from 90 to 80. I don't know why. The card's already good.
No need to buff that card. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Grinning Spectre change, man, that's the one I'm hype about. Doesn't actually make it viable, but you know what? Whenever I can throw
Such
the
a
squid at someone,
card.
yeah, whenever I can throw the squid at someone, it's a higher nuke to be fair, because if you execute them below the 15%, then it adds the extra damage and any like base damage increase, and helps you get over that execute threshold even more. Let's say they've got, well, I forget how much true or percentage it is, like 15%. Point is, if you need to hit somebody down to below 300 to get that execute, you know, having that 50 higher just gives you a lot more room to work with. So it's pretty good. I don't know if you'll see it seen again because it is really slow. But
yeah, I honestly don't even
goodness,
know what the cost of that card is or like
it's
how
like 13, I think. It's really
so
expensive.
expensive. It's not worth it. Then there's Lord Volstock, which this is a really interesting one because they have to increase the gold loss simply because of the gold drip, how it's increased. And I wonder how this actually functions now, because this could, until we actually know like how much the gold drip really is and how it affects gameplay and everything, this card like might have some really weird potential. I don't know, just because it did go up by 2 experience. The cost did go up, and you could argue about if it's even a buff, but there might be some weird application for it. I don't know. Maybe.
Isn't the gold drip, was it an extra 100 and something gold every 102 gold, I think it is, every minute? And then
Okay.
increase the gold you lose every minute with this to what? 240. So I think you lose more gold with it. I could be wrong on this, and my math.
Yeah, no, I don't think 40 gold equals 2 experience, so it looks like a nerf, but I'm just saying it could have weird applications simply because since it is 2 more experience, like maybe it does.
Basically, yeah, it just changes you into you get more XP. Can you benefit from that? You get far less gold. Can you live with that to get the extra levels?
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I haven't seen it played very much since release.
I was playing it like quite a bit, but I don't know.
Yeah, most people died it down because of unstable and everything else. So.
Yep. Yeah. Nameless Curse. Shoutouts to Morgash.
Yeah,
I mean,
she
it costs,
likes it. She don't. They're
costs
trying to make this card
1,000.
viable, man. You know,
1,000 less and it gets 5 more damage. It's actually a pretty solid buff, honestly.
No, it's a solid buff. Like they really want this card in the rotation. The problem is, man, is that
It's such a dumb card.
it's an expensive card and it only really functions on Morrigesh. And like if you think of it as a weird nuke, it can in an extended fight be really impactful if you just throw it on somebody because it is, I believe it was 900 damage before, so it's an extra like 80 damage or something, right? So 980 damage over 16 seconds and it's cheap. It's a lot. It's impactful, but I don't know. Like I like to. Hopefully this card becomes usable, but
Yeah.
who knows? It's just a weird one.
Yep.
I like the card, but.
Plague Lord Malank, that's the Aura card. Slows movement speed and gives blight. Now I can't stack. The fact that this thing stacked in the first place, like, I almost don't care about withering. I think this is more ridiculous than fucking withering. The fact that you could have, I just wonder how it worked when it stacked. Could you actually get to a point? Because I don't know how much base move speed is. Could you go like five Plague Lords and literally have like negative move speed? Would that even be possible?
No, I don't think it'd go negative. I think it was like.
Can you imagine if you're just permanently rooted?
Yeah, I don't think you can go below 0, but
No,
I imagine if you had enough, like it does eat into your move speed enough to the point where this is too much. It shouldn't be slowing that much. Aura should never stack. Blight should never stack. None of this stuff should ever stack.
No,
so.
I'm just surprised that this one in particular ever stacked. The other ones I can understand, but this one, like, I don't know. Possessed Spritekin, that's the curse card. That's 3 vitality, and it has the health regen, like 16.5, I think, flat health regen. Goes up by 4 power. Cool. I mean, it's an early game card. It should have 10 power, I think. If you're committing to it, like it really should have 10 power. Doesn't really make it any more viable, I think. Like I think it's still just kind of the cheese early game card. Doesn't really do anything. I mean, people are running it a lot, but then I don't know if it's actually that good anymore, especially with other cards being changed.
I think it's a good card. It's just increasing the power is nice. It's a buff, like it's whatever, but it's not going to break the card. It's only 4 extra power.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sorvuk Initiate is the percentage health life thing where like you take
the link.
8%, they take 8%. You know, increasing its cooldown by 10 seconds. I don't get why. I mean, 35 seconds is super low. Like that's hilariously low. But I just don't think that it needed it.
I never see the card anyway, so who knows?
I literally only saw it on Klari.
Just
Like
random change.
as like a cheese thing. That's like all I saw it.
Same with Veil Stepper. They gave it
Yeah.
some power. You know, it's nice if you buy the card. It's not going to make you want to buy it anymore, but
The thing
it's
is
whatever.
that
It's nice.
I still can't think of like a real situation in which you want to buy this card, even as jungle. Like it's kind of weird. Like I don't know,
Yep.
maybe, but I don't really think so. But it's nice if
Same
you're already
for,
buying it.
yeah, same for Warlocks. Like they've increased the mana. It's great. Don't really see it often. Don't know when it will be used, but another buff or a card, but it's not going to make you buy it. So
Yep. And here's the Withering Shadow change that everybody fucking wanted. 30 less damage. I'm guessing that means that you do 85 to yourself, 55 to them. I'm guessing that's what it means. I would be
probably
surprised.
means that, yeah.
Or if it's 55 to self, 55 to them, like if it's 55 to self and 55 to them, I actually think that it's fine. Like I think this card will still be run. If it's 85 to self and 55 to them, maybe it might not be run. I don't know. Maybe.
If it's 85 to self, it weakens it quite a lot. If it's 55-55, it still reduces it an offensive tool. Like it should never do that much fucking damage, and not be, you know, ticking that often with that many people sitting on it. So
Yep.
Yeah, but it reduces the offensiveness either way, which is what it needed.
Yeah, and all this stuff is just it can't be applied more than once per second, and it can only be applied once per target. Like just the changes that people wanted. No more double withering. Like
stacking withering doesn't work as well anymore. Like maybe you'll see two on a team, but having two won't just melt your entire comp.
Pretty much.
So it's good.
Wound Seeker buffs. This card's really weird. I think this card's actually really cool. The Wound Seeker. I've looked at this card and like I was like, it actually does look really cool. You know, just the I think it's below 20% HP. It's blight.
Yes.
And something else? Isn't there something else? It's like blight and something else.
Let me find it really quickly. I know it's Wound Seeker. Here it is. Yep. Basically, attacks apply blight below critical wounds for 10 seconds, and it ignores basic armor as well.
That's what it is. It's just 100% armor pen. Is that only when they're below 20?
It's only when they're critically wounded, which is 20 or 25%. I think it's 25%, which is why the card, if the card wasn't below 25%, maybe below 50, it would have a lot more application. But when you get them down that low, anyways,
fuck if it was below 50.
Yeah,
I think if you made it, I think if you made it 35%, it'd be insane. So going 50
because as it stands right now, like blighting somebody below 25%, you know, who has burst heal, they just unload straight away.
It's literally just Rampage. That's like the only that's the only person I think that this card counters is Rampage.
Yep. So, and as far as the basic armor, when it's that low, 25%, it does help execute them a lot quicker, but it's 25 is such a low threshold. I like the card a lot, but it's never really a way of fitting it in. It feels really strange.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Good buffs, though. You know, getting 3 extra power.
I mean, it's a lot of power and a lot of attack speed for 6 agility and 2 vitality.
That's pretty good. Moving on to the knowledge tree now. Echelon Soldier.
Nothing too important.
That's issue. OPD Militia issue. Sleeper Agent. Pretty big change. Getting the silence 650 less range is quite big. It's pretty big range nerf. It's good though. I mean, you shouldn't have this backline mage who can just like snipe the other mage from across the team fight with the silence.
You should have to, if you want to be aggressive with it, you should have to commit your body more, and that's what it does.
So I feel like
the Soldier of Fortune.
Yep.
Now a dead card. You don't ever buy this card. That's all I'm going to say about it. The gold is not worth it. Don't use it. Done. Takes 5 minutes to become even worth the gold you spend, and it has a massive cooldown anyways. It doesn't work.
Yep. Then there's Static Trap. This card's actually really interesting because I almost feel like people want to run this card like really badly just because it's really funny and it's really cool. And there actually is some interesting application. I remember seeing Wraith back it up into Static Trap. It's really funny.
Yep, static knock up into static works. Even the zone control, even someone like Narbash I've seen run it, or Richter. Like Richter's retarded. You just hook somebody in and static trap on the feet. You're like, yeah. I just don't know.
And then silence and ult them. Yeah, it's stupid.
I still don't know if I'll see it bought. It's just giving it one more intellect and one less agility. The people who buy it anyways are the ones that build into intellect or vitality. You know, you rarely put that much into agility, so having to put one less dead point in is nice. Still don't know when you'll see it, but it's a nice change.
Supply Sergeant. going up from 125 to 150. I already thought this card was pretty cool and had like a lot of cool application for support in particular. I feel like this is a really underutilized card. I feel like there is a lot of people who can run it, and it's cool that it gets a 25 extra mana buff. I think this card's really good now. I really like this card, Supply Sergeant.
Thaumaturge fixed, and then Wet Virus. Basically, they just added a cast animation, so there's a projectile that fires, and it feels a lot better because you don't just get hit by some kind of weird CC and you're like, shit. You know, you can actually see it, process it, and react to it. And once you know it's coming, you can then start planning how you're going to react. So they've done a few projectile changes on a few cards, and it's only ever a good thing. It's just quality of life.
Yep. And then the Order Tree. Crippling Glare, which is like the hamstring effect, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, the slow point and click.
Yeah. And it's the same thing, just more clarity in game. Like, instead of, you actually see a homing projectile instead of just getting slowed, and you're like, what happened? Gates of Salvation, cards been re-enabled. Like, even if it's re-enabled, like, no one's gonna use it, so what does it matter? Like, it's such a bad card. Honestly, you know, it's the one that every 40 seconds you get the flat heal. Like, there's just no point to buy this card. The fact that it's not on demand, like, you might as well just get Malang's Prayer and do the same thing, but you can actually use it whenever you want. So I don't know. Lightstep Vanguard, which is the teleport, reduce cooldown, and reduce channel time.
Interesting buffs. Still don't really see the card being used though.
No, it's not enough application. Simple. If you could, if it was like, if you could actually TP onto wards, this shit would be so broken.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Like, your offlaner just hard farming, and then he just has light step and he just runs in.
Yeah, your mic's on a bit wacky again, but yeah, okay. I mean, having a teleport that low cooldown that you could do aggressively on wards, minions, whatever, and it's only 3 intellect, be extremely strong. But as it stands, it's only got mana on it. It's kind of a dead card. You can only teleport to your own towers, which doesn't really do anything for you. I've seen a few people run it, and the fact that it's order, like, it just feels really weird to fit it in. Maybe some wacky supports will find a use for it. Who knows?
Yeah. Moving on to growth. Yeah.
Yep.
You take this one?
Yeah, pretty much. Good buffs. Already a good card. They've increased the power, reduced the max stacks, but you know, it works out better. It's a really strong card, and just buffs across the board. Really.
Yeah.
If you're playing growth, like you kind of want to pick it up.
Pretty much. Flame is actually really interesting because this is actually a very big change. Very, very big change. Because it needed this change because it's too silly that you could just hold on to it, drop it, bring it back up whenever orb spawns, and then it's like, it's there. At this point, we both agree on this, is that it kind of just needs to be reworked and removed. Maybe just make it flat, like you could make it flat per level, like how Smite is in League of Legends, and maybe just put it in like a trinket slot or something. There's so much utility that you could put in a trinket slot that would just make the game a little bit better. Honestly, I feel like Smite's relic system is what I would like to see, something like that, like Smite's relic system. Just have one slot, and it's just like, that's it.
And the thing is, if you make other options, you know, you won't get people running double flame because you can put some kind of limiter on why you'd pick it up, and then like supports aren't just going to pick it up for no reason. If there's another really good choice they have to go with and they can use. But you want a flame because securing orb is good. Like, nobody wants to do 50-50 orbs. Yeah, they're skilling bursting it, but it's not the same as having a dedicated smite that can just completely out damage 95% of the things in the game. But obviously now you can't just sell it, pick it up, resell it, and have the same stacks. It hits the point where I think you'll still see it played, right? It's just, you will hit a certain point in the game where you have to sell it because you can't afford to give up the stats at that moment in time. And then once you've sold it, you know, you can't pick it back up at a 30-minute orb, and then it comes back down to back to how it used to be. So at this point, I don't know what they want to do with the card. Like, I'm cool with having a secure smite type ability in this game. I like it, but I think they need to rework it completely.
Yeah, I think so as well. But I like this change, kind of. I like it a lot.
I like not being able to swap. It's just, I think this could potentially push Flame out, or at least it brings back the issue of why even bring a secure in if it's not going to be relevant later in the game.
Pretty much.
Which is when like big objectives are what you want to be picking up, and it makes more higher variance, more randomness. Like, you brought Flame in for a reason, and now the card isn't really fulfilling its purpose, which is what I don't like.
Yep.
So yeah, rework IMO.
Yeah, and Highwayman, just, it was getting abused with Withering in particular, I think it was. Like, people would just walk around and like have it on, and then they would get gold. Stupid.
Pretty dumb. It's been fixed.
Yeah. Mother Tree, I kind of don't really get this change. How you lose the 2.2 and then you gain the mana regen, because I guess the idea is that do you want to buy this card and it's like, I'm going to farm, I'm just going to use my abilities, I'm going to clear out the jungle really fast. Like that's what you want to do with this card. I think that's like the identity that they want, is kind of like, I could use my abilities and it's better, like I think that's the identity that they want for it, but I feel like there's just no point to take the 2.2 off of it. I just don't really kind of understand this change. That's just me.
Random nerf, very strange.
Very strange. Don't get it. Like, it wasn't even that prevalent of a card. Sprykin fixed an issue. Okay. Tyrant's a very interesting one. This is, depending on how the jungle turns out, will tell you how strong Tyrant is. But Tyrant looks still to be like the bread and butter. Like almost every game you go this. On certain heroes you don't, but you just go it like all the time. So I think the math actually works out to be a buff. Like, you get the 50 extra HP at max stacks, which is obviously a buff. But also since the density is a little bit smaller than it used to be, because you don't have 5-stack camps anymore, I think it averages out. I'm actually going to see entirely what the number is, but I think it actually averages out to... Oh, whoops. It's 26 extra power as opposed to 20. So it actually evens out to about like 2 more power, because it like rounds up to 2 power. So it averages out to 2 more power and 50 extra health. So it's actually a slight buff. Like I said, we'll have to see how the jungle plays out in order to really know like how much this affects. For instance, maybe because of gold drip, like you get it earlier, which means that it affects X, Y, and Z. Who knows, like the variables that could come in and then change it. But I think this card is very, very strong. And then we're going to move on to Unbroken Spirit. Unbroken Spirit got 5+ power, lost 120 health. In terms of raw stats, it's a bit of a nerf just because the heroes that buy it like prefer the 120. But it still serves its purpose, having the 5 extra power. You're still going to see this card on like every durable hero that runs growth. Like, most junglers will buy this card. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, you still work as a durable sustain item. If they got CC, you want to stay tanky, you pick it up. Loses the health, but I mean, you still pick it up for the same reason. So it is a nerf to the card, but you'll still see it.
Mm-hmm. Then there's Vital Waters. You lose 60 health, and then there's the bug fix, but who cares about that? Zinx is dead. Lose 60 health, and this card actually looks not as good on heroes that can't benefit from the actual effect. And the effect is the 15% increased healing. So if you're not benefiting because of healing in some respects, whether it's like Rampage, Chimera, with some of these heroes, like, it doesn't look as good as it used to. It's only 60 health. Like, it's not the end of the world. I'll still buy this card if I have to, just for the health, but it's not as good as it used to be. It was a very, very good card before, so I'm glad I got that small nerf.
It's a really cheap 325 health, only 7 vitality as well.
Yeah, it's very cheap. Then there's the Chaos Tree. Blitz Rush getting reduced to 25 seconds. Doesn't do anything. It's a bad card. Has any card that has agility and vitality is just, it's fucked from the get-go, just because of it's almost impossible in order to invest in, like, because pretty much everybody invests in vitality, so it's impossible to invest in 3 trees, especially with the game length being what it is. It's impossible to invest in 3 trees. So I don't know, like, putting yourself behind 2,000 gold just to get Blitz Rush is like, it's absurd. It's silly. Like, you can never do it.
Not to mention the dash is just terrible.
Yeah.
So
I mean, to top it all off, the dash is terrible even if you can buy it. That's great.
Yeah.
There's
the cooldown, but you get the reset no matter what, so
yeah,
great.
Compensator Rig. This item was like a little bit underplayed, but it has like some applications. Some heroes can use it. I think having this small buff is really nice. Like, I really do actually like this item quite a bit. I like it especially for tanks. Like, it's like a really cool way of just like giving them that, like, almost like how like Olaf is in League of Legends, where it's like you kind of like die by the sword, kind of. It just kind of fits the theme and just does damage. I don't know. It's nice. It's just a nice little, like, almost interplay thing of where, like, this guy's gonna have more damage because you put him lower, or like, it's just nice.
Good little damage buff. Yep. May not amount to much, but it's a little buff. It's good.
Yeah, it's cool. Deathcaller Mighty Strike Attack will now be removed from the basic regardless if you hit it or not. I didn't even know that it didn't go off if you didn't hit. That's absolutely absurd that it didn't do that.
Yep.
Absolutely absurd. So at least you get punished for actually missing a basic. That's good.
Yeah, anything that makes your aim more rewarded is a good thing. So
pretty much,
no complaints about that.
Then there's Dunewinds. I mean, I don't even want to talk about this card. This card's never going to be viable, just by the entire premise of the card. Like, just what it does, like, it will never truly be viable. It will always be a cheese card, just by what it does. It's silly. Pressure Hunter. This card is actually popping up a little bit more, and I think the small buff might actually make it pretty decent. Like, it might actually be an option now. I don't know. It looks pretty good, so I like it. Riot Sapper. This card isn't run as much anymore. I remember in the beginning, like literally the first couple weeks of v43, people ran this specifically on Belica. It was like a really common build,
Very popular.
but then it just kind of faded away. So I'm not sure.
Little buff.
Yeah.
Just doesn't really change it. Just makes it a little bit nicer to buy. That's all.
Yeah. Then this is actually a really interesting change. I want to see where this goes. Is the Nitro Boost one, where it doesn't give attack speed and gives power. There's some application where like you might be able to run this on jungle. You might be able to run this. Maybe it benefits more specific ADs a little bit more. The specific AD carries. How does this work in other roles? I think this is a really good change. This is the way they need it to go. Attack speed's so accessible that you don't need to have this item to have attack speed. If it has power, it's more attractive.
Yeah,
so,
I also don't know
like,
the math on it, but either way.
Yeah.
In terms of like what's more valuable, 11 attack speed or 8 power for your DPS, but you know, end of the day, usability in that. It's cool.
Nuke Blood Mutant, going the buff duration from 6 to 7. Nuke Blood Mutant's a bad card, and you should never buy it. It doesn't work on any hero. There's no hero that can just constantly spam abilities. And there's only 3 card slots. So if there was like 4 or 5 card slots, you might see this on certain heroes like Shinbi, for instance. You could probably see it somewhat. But there's not enough card slots, and it's not good enough of a card to warrant the card slot that it needs. So it's just not a good card. Profiteer going up by 5 gold per last hit from 55 to 60. This makes it from 44 last hits to 40 last hits to pay for itself. So it's a little bit better, but with waves also getting smaller, I don't know if this card's really worth it. Like, it might be, but someone would have to prove it to me, because I don't think it is. I don't think it's good. Reactor
I think
Beast.
it'll be okay. I think you'll see it more often, but like you said, we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Reactor Beast getting a fix, whatever. Thorned Yomi being re-enabled, thank God. This card actually, not having this card actually really screws up your curve on like a lot of chaos melees. So having this card again is gonna be really nice. I want to see how broken this card is, because can you imagine actually having this card to counter some of like the auras or something? I feel like this card would have been complained about a lot if it was actually in the game working like properly.
Yep.
Like, I really
disabled for a while, and now it's coming back. I think you'll start to see more problems, because it was picked up a lot in the early days, and it is a very good card, and it counters a lot of things. You just haven't seen it.
Yeah. Then there's Unstable getting nerfed. Unstable's the only one that doesn't work as like an active aura, where like you toggle it, or like it's just passive. It's a reactive aura, so you have to adjust it individually. So it's got reduced by like 55% range, 700 instead of 1500. Good solid nerf, it needed it. And now it's 0.5. The cooldown for activations is 0.5 instead of 0.4. This is the nerf you need from the very start. I don't know why it was 0.4. It needed to at least be 0.5, in my opinion. And you'll still see this card run. It's not going to be as strong as it was, but you'll still see this card run. I wish they touched the damage a little bit. Well, actually, maybe the range nerf is enough. Maybe the range nerf actually is enough.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's your reward. You got to dive them. You got to be on top of them. And
Yep.
I think it will still be a problem. Like, ADs will still feel a bit gimped by just having this unstable person sitting on their head. But
yeah, specific heroes are like Fang are still going to be really stupid with this card.
Yep. If there's less people just building unstable for no reason, I don't know if this is enough to like completely tone it down to where it needs to go. We'll wait and see. But at least they've done something about it for the time being.
Yep. And then there's card system bug fixes and polish. There's a lot of cards that a lot of bugs were. Unstable was probably the most notable one. The one that I know everybody was talking about was that it would interrupt auto attacks. It would interrupt a lot of ultimates. For instance, Feng Mao ultimate. I've clips on my stream where I literally get interrupted 4 times in a row.
Yep.
Where the unstable will just keep on proccing. Sevarog ult, Sevarog Q. Like, just all these abilities get interrupted. So it was really, it felt really awful in order to get interrupted like that. I didn't even know that some of these other cards did as well, like Thunder Cleaver. I didn't know it did that. Corrosive Walker, like there's a lot of, so it must have just been like a general coding error or something. The reason why it happened, because it happened with so many cards.
Either way, just good quality of life.
Yeah. And then just the visual elements, cool. Then there's a few gem changes. Consume the Dead. Pretty solid nerf. I feel like, I don't know, like 15% of max health of everything is pretty insane. So 10% is pretty good. Healing Towers.
It's whatever.
Fix tooltip issue. Okay, yeah, that's nothing. Improve last hit. Still bad.
Yeah,
Jungle
still
life.
not enough gold to make it worthwhile.
Jungle life steal. Still pointless. Doesn't matter if it's 5 health instead of 4. There's no reason. Quick exit nerf. Quick exit needed a nerf. It's probably, by my money, the strongest gem in the game, simply because everybody uses it. There's not a single character that doesn't run quick exit. I think even offlaners, you can justify somebody who has a bad lane to go quick exit instead of healing towers. You can pretty much justify it on every single hero, and that's why I think it's the most broken gem in the game. Literally the best. So having it nerfed a little bit is nice. Maybe gives actual options in terms of gem choice. And I'm pretty sure that's it.
Just about.
Yeah, it's like just.
There's a few projectile changes and stuff with mainly for the mid laners, like making their
Okay, yeah.
auto attacks a bit thinner and making things a bit more. Basically, you got to be more precise. Makes last hitting easier because minions won't overlap as much. However, your hitbox isn't as big, so you can't be as loose with your aim. It's good. It rewards accuracy more, but you won't really notice it too much.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I think that's mainly it. But like you say, there's so many changes with the amber, with the jungle camps, passive gold. It's hard to know how it's all going to link together.
Did you know that actually Sparrow got one of these buffs as well, or these changes, like the projectile overlap collision?
Yeah, they didn't actually. Did they put it down a bit? Yep. So
Yeah.
it's even more accuracy, and I'm not sure if that affects the ult or not, but who knows?
Who knows? I'm just surprised that she's the only AD that gets that.
The only AD, yep.
Yeah, she's the only one. Very strange. Changed in order to match other carries. Okay, so that's what it is. So every carry is a 1-to-1 now, is what it is. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so, yeah, there's just AI changes down here, and that's it. It's a really huge patch, but I feel like we covered everything.
So final word on jungle changes and shit, because that's mostly what this patch is, and then of course withering and.
It's pretty much. We'll have to see. Everything's gonna be different with jungle. Absolutely everything. Early clears, early timings, everything. Everything will be different. There's not a single thing that will probably stay the same. And we'll see. Thanks for watching, and we're gonna go off now.
Peace out.